Lorenbahn, a unique railway over the Wadden Sea. The Lorenbahn, officially known as the theLüttmoorsiel, Nordstrandischmoor Island Railway, is a small but extraordinary narrow-gauge railway in northern Germany. It connects the Hallig of Nordstrandischmoor, one of the low-lying islands in the Wadden Sea, with the mainland Beltringharder Koog via a dam and embankment. More than just transport infrastructure, it is a symbol of adaptation to extreme environment, local community life, and innovation in maintaining connections where conventional transport would often fail. The Lorenbahn is not a public passenger train in the usual sense, but an extraordinary narrow-gauge railway infrastructure used by islanders, the state agency, and construction services. The railway was constructed in 1933 to 1934. Its primary purpose was to transport construction materials needed for building sea defenses on the Hallig, essential for protecting the tiny island from floods and storm surges. Initially, the railway stretched about 7 kilometers from Sicilian Koog over a pile-based dam to Nordstrandischmoor. In 1956, ice flows destroyed part of the line, especially damaging the pile dam sections. The railway was repaired. In order to make the dam more stable and resilient, the pile-supported dam was filled with rubble in 1977. When a new outer dike around Beltringharder Koog was completed, the stretch between Sicilian Koog and the new outer dike was abandoned sometime in the 1980s, reducing the operative length. In 2000, a new paved embankment, the Lorenbahn, was built, allowing the railway to function largely independent of tidal conditions. Only during storm surges does it become impassable. The railway is narrow gauge with only a width of 600 millimeters. After parts that were abandoned, the currently operative route is about 3.5 to 3.6 kilometers long. It is not a public railway. It is owned by the state of Schleswig-Holstein and operated by their Agency for Coastal Defense, National Parks, and Marine Conservation. Some rolling stock, locomotives, and construction wagons belong to the state agency, used for maintenance, transporting materials, etc. The local residents have their own Lorenz small rail cars, or draisines, which they use for their everyday transport, goods, supplies, moving between the Hallig and the mainland. Each household may have its own wagon. These are now mostly diesel-powered. Earlier, there were versions that used sails. There are some practical requirements. Users have to be at least 15 years old and hold a moped license if using a private wagon. The embankment, Lorenbahn, helps make the route less dependent on tides. It has been reinforced over time. There are sidings and storage depots, switchbacks, branches on the Hallig towards different wharfs, elevated dwelling mounds, and station points. For Nordstrandischmoor, which is subject to flooding, low tide access restrictions, and isolation, the Lorenbahn offers a reliable link for people, supplies, building materials, even for emergencies when boats or roads may be impossible. It's part of daily life. The design and maintenance of the railway, embankments, use of resilient materials show how human infrastructure can adapt to very challenging coastal and tidal environments. It is not just about transport, but about protecting life and making isolated living possible. The railway is deeply embedded in the local way of life. For the few dozen people living on Nordstrandischmoor, the Lorenbahn is essential. The fact that households own their own wagons shows a degree of communal autonomy. And the use of unusual vehicles, Loren, makes it a curiosity and point of interest beyond its practical uses. Also attract attention from tourists and rail enthusiasts because of how unusual it is. Storm surges, ice flows, high tides all pose significant threats. The original pile dam was destroyed by ice, necessitating repairs. Modern embankment helps, but extreme weather can still make parts impassable. Building and maintaining infrastructure in a harsh marine environment is expensive. Salt corrosion, shifting sediments, exposure to wind, and waves require regular repairs. Being a small, non-public narrow-gauge line, it is not suited for large cargo or high speeds. It is a utility, not a high-volume transport line. Only certain people can use private wagons, and during extreme weather the line may be blocked. Also, because it's non-public, scheduling or formal services are limited. Every household on the Hallig having its own wagon is rare. The mode of ownership is almost like owning a private boat or automobile, but in a railway context. Transition from simpler, more vulnerable designs pile dam to more robust embankment. From sail and wind propulsion to Loren to motorized versions, shows technological evolution tied to survival. It operates in one of the most challenging environments in Europe, the Wadden Sea, subject to tides, storms, flooding. Yet it functions as a real working transport link, not just a heritage or tourist railway. The existence of private lures, the usage rules, the sound and nature of the ride over the dam give the place its character. It is more than infrastructure. It shapes how people live. For instance, the ride is slower, more exposed, giving an opportunity for reflection, connection to nature, the sea, the sky. Although it is not a commercial public transport line, overnight guests or people staying on the Hallig may be allowed to use the lure for travel. Also, the Lorenbahn is a curiosity, often featured in travel writing, photography, and for people who seek offbeat travel experiences. The Lorenbahn is more than curiosity. It is a vital piece of infrastructure for the people of Nordstrandischmoor, a physical manifestation of how societies adapt to difficult geographic and climatic conditions. It bridges sea and land, connects isolated communities, and preserves a way of life. Its story is about survival, resilience, and ingenuity. Even as climate change threatens low-lying coasts, the Lorenbahn stands as both inspiration and a reminder of the ongoing challenge of living in harmony with nature. A ride on the Lorenbahn is not simply transport. It's an experience. You feel exposed to the elements. Wind off the sea, salt in the air, the vibration and sound of rails and motor, or even older wind-powered lure, echoing across flats that at low tide are mud and sand, dotted with pools and seabirds. The pace is slow, which means passengers or the person riding sometimes see things invisible from fast transport. Tidal pools, migrating birds, shifting clouds or horizon, the interplay of sea and sky. It contributes to a sense of remoteness, of being at the boundary between land and sea. The Lorenbahn is a remarkable example of how human infrastructure adapts to nature, geography, and necessity. In one sense, it's modest, short in distance, limited in capacity, private in access, but in another sense, it is deeply creative, resilient, and essential. For the people of Nordstrandischmoor, it is more than rails or wagons. It is a connection, a way of maintaining life amidst changing seas. Its future depends on continued investment, resilience against climate challenges, and balancing tradition with modern needs, just like moving to electric transport. Nonetheless, as long as it runs, it is a living link between community, landscape, and nature, a Lorenbahn over the tide. Brought to you by Infinite Knowledge from Raleigh Edutech. Thanks for viewing this presentation. Request you to support us by sharing and subscribing to this channel.